Hello everyone and welcome to our second workshop of the day, Understanding and Collecting Your Publishing Royalties with Lara Baker from Songtrust. I'm Kaylee and I'm the event coordinator for Resonate, so if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. We've got our chat box on the right hand side, so please do drop any questions in there during the session, and I will ask them to Lara at the end of her presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Lara. I'm going to mute my mic and turn off my camera. And yep, Lara, take it away.
Great, thank you, Kaylee. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing good in this very weird time. Two quick things. My neighbour's doing some DIY and I'm expecting an Amazon delivery. So there could be some weird and wonderful interruptions with this talk, but we'll go okay. And hopefully you can all hear me all right. In just a second, I'm going to screen share with you. In fact, let's try and do that now. Just to say, I won't be able to see the chat whilst I'm screen sharing. But do throw any questions in there and we'll get to them at the end and we'll have plenty of time, I'm sure, for anything you guys want to ask. Right, so I'm just gonna screen share with you. Okay, I am hoping you can all see that. I can't see the chat anymore, so Katie will text me if anything starts to go wrong. So, hi everyone, thank you for joining the session today to hear about music publishing and specifically publishing royalties and how you collect them. 2020, of course, has been a completely bizarre and challenging year for all of us. And, you know, there's obviously a lot to worry about in terms of health and family, and a lot of people dealing with working from home and homeschooling and looking after children, and of course, furlough and unemployment and how to make a living during this really difficult time. Now, whilst a lot of work and activity is on hold, particularly for artists who can't tour and play live at the moment, I know that a lot of artists and their teams this year have been searching for ways to keep money coming in and to direct their energy into positive things. And getting publishing royalties flowing and song registrations in order is something that a lot of writers and managers have finally had time to think about. That's a really positive thing. It will definitely pay off in the long term, but it's also really important to know that it's no quick win. Publishing, it's a really slow game. Generally speaking, it will take sort of 9 to 12 months from registration to see royalties that are due to you. But given that a lot of the royalties that a writer earns are from streaming and digital sources, for us at Songtrust, we've been largely unaffected by COVID, and we're working really hard to make sure that our writers can collect everything that they're due at this tricky time. Also should mention that we will discount our usual sign-up fee for anyone who wants to open an account at the moment with Songtrust. So if that's of interest, just get in touch with me later and I can provide a discount code for that. And I'll go into more detail on what Songtrust does as we go through this subject. Okay. So at Songtrust, we really want to see writers at any level and at any stage of their career be able to earn a living and be appropriately remunerated, so paid for their work. And songwriters and composers really need market conditions that allow them to make a living for their work. And they also need education and information so that they fully understand their rights and how to collect everything that they're due. Now, I know there'll be people on this session right now who, you know, are at varying stages in their career, and there might be people on this call who know the ins and outs of copyright and the fundamental principles of publishing. But I'm going to make sure I cover off the basics for those who don't as well, and for those who are newer to the business. So please bear with me if this talk starts off a little bit basic. Hopefully there'll be some useful nuggets in here as well, for those of you who know publishing a little bit better. And I really want to say it's okay if you don't already understand music publishing and what royalties a writer might be due and how to collect them. There are people who I talk to who've been in the industry, for 30 years who don't understand this side of the business. It is really complicated. So you're not alone if this area is a bit daunting for you. But if you're a songwriter or you work with songwriters, it's really important to make the effort and do your homework and understand this area. And then to get a publisher or a publishing admin company in place, registering your songs all around the world. So if you're just with your PRO, that's PRS in the UK, then you will be missing out on monies that you're due. So thank you for logging on today, and I hope that this will be a useful session. Here are some contact details if you want to get in touch. My email is lbaker@songtrust.com. I'm going to mention lots of free resources that I can send to you or that you can find on the Songtrust website. So do feel free to get in touch. And there's our Twitter and Instagram handles. If you want to do some trolling, go for it. Just a little bit of background about me in case it's useful. I've been working in the music business now for just over 15 years, 18 months of those at Songtrust on the publishing side of the business. So it was quite a big learning curve for me in the first year or so. Immediately before Songtrust, I ran my own consultancy called The Bakery, where I was director of programming for BBC Music Introducing Live, the festival at Tobacco Dock, and I also worked for the MMF, Music Managers Forum, the Musicians Union, Americana Fest UK, the Great Escape Festival, Liverpool Sound City. So lots and lots of events programming. I'm also a board member of the AMA UK, which is the Americana Music Association UK. So if any of you are doing any of the Americana genres, then definitely drop me a line, send me some music. Send me any music, I love all genres. And I was the AIM Marketing and Events Director for many years. So when I was at AIM, I created the AIM Awards, which I was very proud of and continues to celebrate independent music and artists to this day. So really, I think across all of my different roles, whether it's AIM or the consulting or now at Songtrust, my mission has really always been about educating and empowering independent artists so that they have, the knowledge and the connections that they need to be able to make a living from their music and their creativity. And that's what I'm really passionate about. Also really passionate about diversity. So I'm on the AFEM Diversity Task Force, and I've written various articles for Music Week and the Huffington Post about music industry diversity issues and the gender gap and this sort of thing. So if any of you ever want to talk about that, please do get in touch. So this is what I'm going to go through today, and we're going to start off quite simple and then get into a little bit more detail as we progress. So understanding your rights, the two halves of a song, breaking down the composition of a song. I'm going to talk a little bit about what a music publisher does and what a publishing administrator does and how they differ. Understanding mechanical and performance royalties. These are the main royalties due on the publishing side. How publishing royalties are collected, and how Songtrust can help you to access what you're due. And I really want to flag this great free resource that we have available from the Songtrust website, which is the Modern Guide to Music Publishing. This is an ebook, a PDF that's about 20 pages long that really explains how publishing works, the royalty types, how they're collected. It's a great free resource, so definitely head to songtrust.com and download that. Okay, so I wanted to sort of start this talk with this quote for context, and that's, "More original songs are being written, released, and listened to than ever before in history." And this is a fact, and it's really exciting, but it does, of course, mean that there's more work than ever to be done in managing the rights in those songs and ensuring writers get paid what they're due. This is a rights business. It's the music business and it's exciting, but really to make a living from it, you have to understand that it's a rights business. And managing and administering rights is really complicated, and it requires a lot of attention to detail and good data. It's not very sexy, but it's important. So with every new composition and recording, a chain of rights are created and ultimately royalties are generated. And getting those royalties to those who've earned them is an elaborate system which is further complicated by the global network that they touch. There's a lot of different copyright laws and a lot of different practices in all the different countries around the world that make global royalty collection even more complicated than it already is. So it's really tough for writers, I think, to wrap their heads around how their songs generate income, how music publishing works. And so a huge amount of writers are leaving money on the table, losing out on money that's rightfully theirs. And, we are very much about stopping that from happening and getting the money back to the writers who've earned it. So you should really try as a songwriter to understand your rights and music publishing as well as you can, and to be sure to work with a trusted partner like Songtrust to ensure that you're collecting royalties that you're due. So we try to make publishing as transparent and understandable as possible for the creator. So let's get into that now. So this is where I want to start, and it's sort of the basics, but it's really, really important to understand that if you're an artist and you write your own music, whether that's co-writing with others or completely alone, if you're writing the music and recording it, then you own two copyrights: the copyright in the composition, the song, and the master copyright, the copyright in the recording. And I'm sure some of you on this session are both artist and songwriter. Some of you might just be songwriters or just be artists. But it's really important to understand that these are two totally separate sets of rights. So your record label or distributor, like CD Baby, DistroKid, Proper, Believe, Ditto, AWOL, Ingrooves, etc., they will be the people managing and collecting your royalties on the recording side. And your label or distributor, they will get your music onto streaming services like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and so on, or even release it on CD or vinyl. And they will be the people paying you the royalties that you're due on the master side, the royalties for the recording. Now, Songtrust is a publishing administrator, so we're concerned with the composition side and the royalties that are due to you as a writer of the song. So don't confuse publishing and distribution. If you're the artist and the writer, you'll have a label or distributor looking after the master side and a publisher or publishing administrator on the composition side. There's absolutely no conflict there. You want both in place to be able to collect everything that you're due. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the rights in the composition and music publishing and the royalties due to the writer. Okay, so what happens when you write a song? Well, music publishing in its purest form refers to the money known as royalties that you can make as a copyright holder of the music that you write. So as soon as you write a song and you put it into a tangible form like a demo, then you're the owner of the copyright. You don't have to actually actively register it anywhere. The rights that you then have to do with sharing the music. So you get the right to reproduce the work, to distribute copies, to perform the work publicly, to make a derivative work, and to display the work publicly. Now, this is sort of copyright jargon, but what that means in practice is if your song is performed live, if it's broadcast on the radio or TV, if it's streamed, if it's made available on CD or vinyl, all of these things generate royalties for the songwriter. And the royalties generated are mechanical, performance, and microsync. So you have these rights, they're generating royalties for you. Where does a publisher fit into the equation? So one side of a publisher's royalties is the global registration of your songs and the collection of royalties from collection societies all over the world and from digital services like YouTube, Spotify, etc. And this part of a publisher's job is referred to as administration, publishing admin. The other side of what a publishing company does is referred to as creative. So this means getting their writers' songs synced onto TV shows, films, ads, games, etc. And also the A&R aspect. So that might be putting them in a room with a co-writer or pitching their songs to be recorded by major artists, for example. And some music publishing companies that you might have heard of, obviously there's the majors, so there's Sony ATV, Warner Chappell, and Universal Music Publishing. And then much like in the label side of the business, there are thousands of indies. So there's Downtown Music Publishing, there's Notting Hill Music, Music Sales, BMG, Bucks Music, Peer Music, Westbury, so on and so on. There's thousands of independent publishers. So another question that comes up a lot in publishing is, what is a sync? And I'm sure a lot of you guys know this already. But this is when a song is synced to a moving image, it is used in, an advert, a film, a TV show, a computer game. The way this works is songs are selected by a person called a music supervisor, and they will do a deal with the publisher to clear the rights in the composition, and also with the label to clear the master rights, the rights in the recording. So a music publisher will spend a lot of time cultivating relationships with music supervisors so that they can pitch songs for sync and negotiate the fee and the terms when a song is going to be used. So if you don't have a publishing deal, if you are unpublished, or if you work with a publishing administrator like Songtrust, you can instead appoint a sync agent who will represent your catalogue to find those opportunities for you. Okay. So moving on to the royalty collection side of what a publisher does, and stick with me, I know we're getting into the sort of the bit of the industry that can be a little bit dry, but it's really important to understand. So this slide explains the royalties on the composition side, and these are the royalties that Songtrust would help you to collect. So there are two main types of royalties in publishing: performance and mechanical. The writer will be due a mechanical royalty every time their song is streamed, every time it's downloaded, every time it's made available on a physical format, so vinyl, cassette, CD, etc. Performance royalties, these will be due to the writers anytime their song is played on the TV or radio, anytime it's streamed, anytime it's played live in a cafe or a bar or a hairdresser's, or if it's performed live at a gig. I hope gigs will be back in 2021. So don't get confused. I did say then that there is both a mechanical and a performance royalty in streams. So in streams, you get both. And I think many, even really very well-known writers and artists, they're often only collecting their performance royalties, not their mechanicals, because they aren't registered with the mechanical societies, and they don't actually realize that there's a mechanical in every stream, so there's an awful lot of money that they might be missing. Now, 15 to 20 years ago, it was somewhat possible to manage the rights of the song on your own and to collect the performance royalties due to you, or the publishing royalties due to you, I should say. But with the emergence and now dominance of streaming, particularly all around the world, it's extremely challenging, if not impossible, to do so on your own, because you could be generating royalties in hundreds of countries by your music being streamed everywhere. And, this can be a really significant amount of money. So this is why we built Songtrust, to enable independent writers to collect everything they're due from everywhere. So I'm just going to sort of go over really what I just explained about where the royalties come from, because I always find with publishing that I have to hear things about 5 times before they really sink in, and I'm like, yeah, got it. So performance royalties, these are generated whenever a song is publicly broadcast on the radio or TV, in restaurants, bars, etc., and when the song is performed live. These royalties, I guess they're going to be really quite impacted by this year's lockdowns. So there'll be a financial hit for songwriters, which will be felt probably more so early next year, because there's a bit of a delay in collecting times at the societies. And, with no gigs and with no bars and restaurants open, those performance royalties are going to be reduced. Performance royalties, as I said, are also generated when your music is streamed and from interactive radio. Now, mechanical royalties, these are generated whenever a copy of a song is made. So when a CD is produced, when a song is downloaded, when a song is streamed. And there are statutory mechanical license royalty rates which apply for physical products and for downloads, which vary depending on the territory that the song is being distributed in. Streaming rates, on the other hand, they're not statutory, so each service has its own calculation to determine the rate that it pays, and that's affected by multiple factors like whether people are streaming it on the free tier or the paid tier, and which country they're streaming it in, and so on and so on. So it's very, very hard to say, what, for example, 1 million streams is worth, because it can vary by hundreds of pounds. So microsync, this is what we call royalties from YouTube. And with YouTube, we can generally collect as far back as when the song was first monetized on the platform. So that's usually when the video was uploaded by the label or distributor. Hope I'm not going too fast for everyone. It is a little bit complicated, all of this, but I'm on email and everything afterwards if anyone has questions that we don't get through during the course of the session. So you might have heard the terms writer's share and publisher's share. Now, depending on which society a writer is affiliated to, or a member of, I should say, there are different rules regarding how much a publisher is allowed to collect directly on behalf of its clients. So in the UK and the US and Australia, for example, a publisher can collect 100% of mechanical royalties for its writers, but only 50% of the performance royalties generated. So the other 50% of the performance royalties goes from the PRO, so PRS in the UK, directly to the writer, and that's called the writer's share. So when you have a publisher or a publishing administrator like Songtrust in place, then they'll be collecting 100% of your mechanical royalties for you and 50% of your performance royalties, and the other 50% of your performance royalties will be paid directly to the writer by your PRO. In Europe, the percentages are different, but let's not get into that. It's very complex globally when you get into the weeds of publishing admin. So I've explained a little bit about how royalties are generated when songs are streamed, downloaded, reproduced onto physical formats, performed live, played on the radio, TV, etc. But how do they actually get collected and reach the songwriter? So every country or territory has either a performing rights organisation, that's a PRO, and a mechanical rights society, or multiple organisations in the case of the US, or a CMO, which is a collective organisation, which collects and pays out both performance and mechanical royalties. So in the UK, we have a performing rights organisation, PRS, and we have the society that deals with mechanicals, MCPS. So to be sure that you collect the royalties due to you globally, you want to be a member of these societies in every country, as you could be getting streams and plays all over the world in the digital age. So Songtrust, as a publishing administrator, has 55 direct society affiliations around the world. That number's always increasing. We've added about 5 or 6 this year. And this allows us to collect royalties for our songwriter clients from about 95% of the music publishing market, 215 countries and territories we collect from at present, and we're always adding new ones. So these direct relationships with all those different societies around the world, they allow us not only to collect our writers' royalties as quickly and accurately as possible, but with as few fees as possible, because we're direct with the societies, we're not using third parties and sub-publishers. So if you use a publishing administrator like Songtrust, you will have access to your global publishing royalties. And also you'll no longer need to register your titles anywhere yourself. So you don't need to log on to PRS and register the songs there. You just add them once at Songtrust and we'll be able to collect everything that you're due globally. So these are just some of the many, many societies around the world that I just mentioned, which Songtrust collects royalties from directly for our songwriter clients. So there's SASM in France, there's Gamer in Germany, Boomestemmer in the Netherlands, and so on and so on. And it's really important, I think, that songwriters understand why it isn't enough for them to simply affiliate and register their songs with their domestic PRO, which is PRS in the UK, if they've got activity anywhere else in the world. So Often managers or writers will say to me, but don't I get my international royalties through PRS's international reciprocal agreements? Well, I'll explain a little bit about how those agreements work and why it's not enough to rely on those agreements if you want to collect everything that you're due. So a reciprocal agreement is a contract usually between two societies in two different territories to collect on behalf of each other's members. So PRS, for example, might have a reciprocal agreement with, say, ASCAP to collect performance royalties the songwriter earned when their songs are performed in the US and vice versa. So these deals are useful in ensuring that a songwriter's songs could potentially collect royalties for uses in other countries, but it's not guaranteed. It's a very passive approach to global publishing royalty collection, because the societies, they don't actually register your songs directly with the other societies internationally. It's a manual data matching process which goes on. So if you want to actually proactively ensure that you're going to collect everything that you're earning in all those different territories, what needs to happen is your songs need to actually be registered at all those different international societies. So most publishing administrators, including Songtrust, dedicate a lot of time to creating these relationships around the world and to ensuring that their songwriters' songs are properly registered, tracked, and collecting all the royalties that they're earning. And this is why songwriters work with publishing administrators who have direct relationships with all the pay sources around the world to make, registration and royalty collection a lot quicker and easier, and to sort of take that headache away and allow them to focus on what they do best, the songwriting. Okay, so getting into a few really important things to be aware of if you're a songwriter and you want to collect everything that you're due when your songs are out. So I'm going to go through a few things which can cause songwriters to not get paid their royalties. And the first is incorrect split information. So at the very heart of collecting publishing royalties is knowing, agreeing, and correctly recording splits when songs are co-written. So if you're a writer and you're writing songs with other writers, then you need to agree what percentage of that song you're having and what percentage they're all having. And those shares, of course, must add up to exactly 100%. If claims on a song surpass 100%, that leads to counterclaims. The song goes into conflict at societies and no one gets paid until it's resolved. And, sometimes it never is. So it's really important to get the splits agreed and to make sure they're recorded and to make sure that all co-writers are registering the same information with societies. Another thing to think about is if there's 3 of you writing a song, who's going to get the 33.34% and who's going to get 33.33%? Because if you all try and register 33.34, then it goes over 100% and you might not get paid. Little mistakes like that have, made millions of pounds not reach the writer that it should have reached. So it's really important to be aware of. So what you need is a split sheet, and a split sheet is a really great tool because you can agree in the studio when a song is written who has what percentage and just record it on a split sheet, put everyone's percentage down, everyone sign it, and then there's no confusion. And it might be an awkward conversation to have when you're in the creative process and you're writing songs and it's quite a sort of vulnerable creative space, but don't be shy to talk about percentages and to get it sorted before you leave the studio because it's really vital. So Songtrust has a template split sheet and we can, it's free. You can download it from the Songtrust website or drop me an email afterwards and I'll send it to you. So the second common reason that writers miss out on royalties due to them is because they don't register songs correctly in time. So it's really important to be aware that there are time limits to collecting your royalties in publishing. And of course, like everything, it varies by country. But generally speaking, you have up to 3 years to claim the publishing royalties that are due to you that are being held by societies. And that's if your songs haven't been registered or have been incorrectly registered. So once that time limit passes, once that 3 years has passed, then there's a thing called the black box. And after a few years, unclaimed royalties go into the black box, and then they are released by the society to their members based on market share. So, you know, basically your major publishers and your Drakes and your Ed Sheerans will do very nicely out of all of the independent writers who didn't get their registrations made. So if, for example, you've got a song and it's been out, you know, for 3 or more years, you haven't had a publishing administrator in place registering those songs with all the societies around the world, you'll have missed out on collecting those royalties, and you do risk losing them forever to the black box. So you don't want to wait until you've had some big hits to get your songs registered globally. It's never too early to get that in order. Okay, that was a quick whiz through publishing royalties and what can go wrong and things to think about. I'll just tell you a little bit about Songtrust and who we are. So Songtrust was created about 9 years ago to give songwriters who didn't have a publishing deal a way to collect their global publishing royalties. And unlike a music publishing company, when you use Songtrust, you don't sign over any of your rights. You stay fully independent, you fully own your copyright. You just register your songs with us. We will collect your publishing royalties for you from all over the world, and we'll take a percentage admin fee on what we collect. So it's a really writer-friendly, flexible, transparent DIY solution for making sure you get the royalties that you're owed if your song has been streamed, if it's been played live, played on the radio, etc., in the digital age, anywhere in the world. So we're specialists in publishing admin, which, as I mentioned, is the very boring industry term for collecting your publishing royalties from all over the world. And we're actually the leading company globally offering publishing administration. And one of the unique things about Songtrust is how we provide real-time, detailed data on the royalties that you're earning. So at any time, you can log into your Songtrust dashboard and you can see the royalties that have been received for you. And it will show you which song they're for, when they were earned, which society they were received from, which country they were earned in. And that information is always updating whenever any of our pay sources around the world pay us. So that kind of information, just as context, has never really been shared in the publishing world. And in the past, you know, it was just kind of a check in the post and you didn't really know if you'd had everything that you would due or not. So there's a lot of new models, Songtrust being one of them, where it's really putting the information and the power back into the hands of the creator, which is what I love about it. A couple of stats about Songtrust. We work with over 300,000 songwriters, and we've registered over 2 million songs all around the world. So it's the leading publishing admin company. So what will happen is a songwriter will open an account and then they will register their songs on the Songtrust dashboard, which is really, really simple to do. And we will then register those songs with PRS, MCPS, and all of their equivalent societies around the world, and with digital services that we have direct deals with, like YouTube and so on. And we will then collect all those royalties due to you from all over the world and pay them through to you. And as I said, via the dashboard, you can see loads of data on exactly what royalties your songs are earning, where they've been streamed, and what money you're going to receive and when. And writers who work with us get paid quarterly. So I think what's really interesting about Songtrust is that we were set up for, you know, as I said, for those sort of early stage developing songwriters to be able to collect their royalties before they had a publishing deal. But also now what we find is a lot of writers coming the other way. So we have a lot of really successful, really high earning songwriters who have perhaps come to the end of publishing deals, got their rights back and decided to work with Songtrust so that they can hold on to their rights and just give away a small percentage admin fee and still collect everything that they're due. So, you know, we have writers who've written for Selena Gomez, Chance the Rapper, Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, huge high earning writers. And more closer to home, in fact, my first client when I started at the company in May last year, was actually Ray at Craft Management, who brought the Twilight Sad over to us. So we're building a really nice client base here in the UK as well. This slide basically explains the difference between a publishing admin deal with Songtrust versus a traditional publishing deal, which is known as a co-pub deal. And so with Songtrust, it's a 1-year deal term, so you can cancel at any time after 1 year. Whereas if you sign a traditional publishing deal, generally you're locked in for many years, for quite a long period of time. With Songtrust, we pay out 4 times per year, which is quite abnormal in publishing. A lot of publishers still only pay out once or twice a year. You have the choice with Songtrust to register only the songs that you want to register with us. So you can, register your whole catalogue, or if you've got some songs still tied up in other deals, then you don't have to add those. Whereas in a traditional publishing deal, you are required to register all of your songs written prior to or during the term with your publisher. A really important one is that with Songtrust, you keep 100% of your copyright. We don't take any ownership, whereas with a publishing deal, you tend to give the publisher 25 to 50% of your copyright, often for life. Sync rights, we don't take sync rights, as I said. You keep control of your sync rights, so you're free to either handle sync yourself or work with a sync agent to get your music licensed to TV and games, etc. Whereas with a publisher, they usually take your sync rights. Fees, we charge a 15% admin fee on what we collect. So when you work with Songtrust, we collect everything that you're due from all around the world, and we take a 15% admin fee on that, and the client receives 85% of it. In a traditional publishing deal, it obviously varies massively depending on what you can negotiate, but obviously you're giving away a much bigger percentage of your royalties. And as I said, the dashboard that you get with Songtrust gives you a huge amount of data of exactly what your songs are earning from all around the world, which is not what you usually receive in a publishing deal. Hope I'm not whizzing through all of this too fast. I hope that's all been useful. So if you decided that you did want to start collecting your global publishing royalties with Songtrust, then just email me for a discount code. First of all, we'll sort you out with a discount. And then you go to songtrust.com and you register your songs on the dashboard. So you put in all of your titles and your percentages and all of your co-writer information. And you can also submit set lists on our platform as well. So when you are playing live, when that's a thing again, then you want to remember to collect those performance royalties by submitting the set lists. And there can be quite a lot of money to be earned from that. And we'll do the rest. So we will get those songs registered globally. We will claim those royalties from your live shows, and we will make sure that you're receiving everything that you're due. Okay, so just a quick reminder, if you go to songtrust.com, there is an insane amount of really great free resources. There's webinars every week on Music Publishing 101 and lots of different useful topics. There's the template split sheet that I mentioned that's really useful for when you're co-writing. And there's the Modern Guide to Music Publishing, which is a really great book that you can download. These are my details again. If you want to get any of that stuff by emailing me, it's lbaker@songtrust.com, and the website is songtrust.com, and Twitter @songtrust. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing now so that I don't feel like I'm talking to myself anymore. And please do put your questions in the chat, any thoughts in the chat. And yeah, I'm here for another sort of 20 minutes or so. So there are no stupid questions in publishing. So if there's a part of it that's confusing, then hit me, let's do it.
So I've got a question from Anna. Can artists collect royalties from streaming their performances online? I'm guessing that's what you mean, Anna. Is it from online streaming? Can you collect royalties?
Does she mean, I don't know exactly what she means by that question. We might need a bit of clarification, but if she's asking about like the current live streaming that obviously everyone is doing because there are no shows, then it's a tricky one, actually. Not really. The societies are sort of playing catch up here. So the PRS, for example, don't pay out royalties on live streamed gigs currently. Some of the PROs around the world, like Canada, for example, did announce that they were going to pay out royalties on every live stream. PRS doesn't. There are platforms that are licensed, though, that you can use for your live streams, like obviously Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. They're all licensed, so there should be royalties generated by live streams. Although, you know, the sort of the technology and the it's not really being tracked very well. So I'm dubious as to, you know, how much people will actually get from their live streams.
Yeah, thank you. Got another question here from Aberdeen-based producer Vagrant Real Estate. Do sync agents require a regular fee, or do they take it a percentage of the fee once your music's placed in a sync?
So say the start of that again, sorry.
Do sync agents take a fee, or do they take a percentage once they've placed your music?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's probably all sorts of models out there, but the sort of the typical trustworthy model is that they will take a percentage if they land you a sync. So, and obviously that percentage will vary depending on who you're working with and how much leverage you have to negotiate. But yeah, they will take a percentage. So if they get your music into a game or a film, and you know, let's say it's a £10,000 deal, then they will take a percentage of that.
Great stuff. We've got another question here from Fiona. If your songs are already registered with PRS, are you still able to join Songtrust?
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens is, so with Songtrust, any writer that decides to use us does need to be a member of PRS or their equivalent PRO, depending on where they are in the world. And they will still get the writer's share of their royalties directly from PRS. But once you use Songtrust, you don't actually need to register songs at PRS anymore. You can just register them once on Songtrust, and we will register them everywhere. And if those songs have already been registered on PRS, that's absolutely fine. When we send out the registration, it will supersede the previous one.
Got a question here from Dougal. At what stage in an artist's career do you recommend getting set up with Songtrust?
It's for publishing admin, it's never too early, because the moment someone has streamed your music in a different country, there's royalties out there that you're probably not going to be getting. So it's different to, you would look at the timing of a publishing deal differently to doing publishing admin. Publishing admin, you really want to have in place from the beginning, because you want to be collecting everything that you're due as soon as it starts to be streamed anywhere in the world. Whereas a publishing deal where, you know, you might be tied in for a long time, you're going to get an advance, all of that, you would probably want to build yourself to quite a successful level before you sign a publishing deal, because that's when you'll get good terms. And if you sign a publishing deal too early, chances are the terms, the advance, etc., will not be very favorable, and then you're going to be tied in for a really, really long time. So often people will get publishing admin whilst they're working towards a publishing deal.
And just to reiterate, so you can essentially bypass PRS if you're signing up with Songtrust. Just to clarify, you still need to be a member of PRS and join, which costs £100 if I'm right, and that's a one-off fee.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always say to songwriters and artists, you know, get signed up as quickly as possible and get that out the way, because you can earn back your fee quite quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. Get signed up with your PRO. That's really important.
Does Songtrust, this is a question from Craig Baird, does Songtrust offer services to publishers as well as writers?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that in my presentation, actually. So we very much do so. We have a lot of clients who are like sometimes independent labels who want to have a publishing setup, and they can use us as the back end. We have clients who are distributors. You know, CD Baby is a client of ours. Symphonic Distribution is a client of ours. And we also have publisher clients as well. So, for example, Sub Pop Publishing, which is the publishing arm of Sub Pop Records, the big Seattle indie label, they use Songtrust. In the UK, Snapper Music uses Songtrust. There's hundreds of examples. So, yeah, we often work with businesses and we provide an admin back end so that they can just do creative and A&R and the other aspects of what a publisher does, and we will handle the global registrations and royalty collection for them. So if anyone on this call is a publisher or a label or a management company or a distributor, then yeah, Songtrust can absolutely be your admin partner.
Sounds amazing. Got another one from Fiona. Do Songtrust collect retrospectively? Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the black box and the time limits to collect. So when a writer adds their songs to Songtrust, if there's a rapper whose name I won't say, but there's a rapper that we work with who's really big UK rapper, never had publishing admin, and he's been in the game for about 15 years, and he's had massive songs with like The Prodigy and with Skepta and huge hits. And he only recently signed up. And so for him, we're going to be, for every client, we retroactively collect as much as we can. So once the songs are registered correctly globally, it will eventually unlock any of that retroactive royalties that are out there to be collected. The only important thing to realize is that because royalties after a certain point go into the black box and get redistributed, some of it may have gone, like in the case of the rapper who's been in the game 15 years, a lot of his stuff will have gone and been redistributed. So it's always better to sign up with publishing admin sooner rather than later.
Got one from Ariana here. It's a good point about sampling. What happens if you wrote lyrics and vocal line but got the instrumental off of YouTube, i.e. you purchased a lease but you don't own the track?
That's a tricky one to answer because there's a lot of nuances with this. But what I would say is the Songtrust contract that you sign if you open an account with us asks you to confirm that you've cleared any samples in your works. So as a writer, if you're using samples or if you're buying beats and stuff, then the onus is very much on you to make sure that you've got the permissions and the rights that you need to be able to use that. And I think reading things like our Modern Guide to Music Publishing is really useful for understanding a bit more about, samples and permissions. Mm-hmm. You don't want to end up in hot water.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of these kind of sample websites that you can, get these sounds off of actually say in their contract you cannot release this or register this to PRS. So yeah, definitely just check in with the terms and conditions. I've got one here from Derek Doyle. If I understand you correctly, you stated that before joining Songtrust, you should register with PRS.
Yeah.
I know a couple of young bands where only one person is registered, but they have an internal agreement to split when royalties arise. Would all writers / band members need to be individually registered before joining Songtrust?
Yeah, I've had this come up a few times actually, and I'm just it worries me because obviously you could do that. You could just have one band member sign up to PRS and one band member open a Songtrust account and then, have an internal agreement and divvy the money up once it's paid to that one person. But, bands fall out, people move away, stuff changes, and copyright is very long. 3 decades down the line, you might not still be in touch with that one person. So I would really advise doing it properly. I know it's £100 to join PRS, but if you think of the life of copyright, you really should have your songs, your splits registered in your name at your PRO, because otherwise there's so much potential for it to go wrong and for you not to get your royalties down the line.
Yeah, thanks, Lara. It's really important just to make sure all the metadata, everything's registered. You may as well just get everyone registered to PRS. As Lara says, you don't know what can happen down the line with other members in your band. So yeah, that was really great questions from the audience and really great presentation from yourself, Lara. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
If there's any last minute,
it's always so weird when you're sort of speaking at the screen and you can't actually see the audience, and you're just like, am I talking too fast? Is this boring? I don't know. But I hope that was useful for everyone.
Yeah, it went amazing, Lara. Honestly, some amazing information there for publishing such a, as you say, it's such a crazy topic to sometimes get your head around. Okay, we've got one last question. I think we can fit in one more question.
Yeah.
Do all PROs like PRS collect royalties retrospectively, or is it just Songtrust that do that?
Yeah, so all PROs hold, royalties that haven't been claimed yet for a certain amount of time. 3 years, generally speaking. It varies by country. So yeah, when you're with Songtrust, you're able, when we actually register those songs with all the different PROs, any money that they're still holding that hasn't been redistributed, gone into the black box and so on, then we'll be able to unlock those royalties. One thing that it's important to note is the timeline. So generally speaking, retroactive royalties take a bit longer to come through than, any royalties that you're kind of earning in real time, if that makes sense. They tend to be released an extra couple of quarters later. So if you signed up with Songtrust now and added the songs, and there was some that came out a few years ago and there's retroactive royalties on them, then it's probably at least a year before those come through. That's just
Thanks so much.
It's a complicated business and it takes them a long time to do what they do.
Thank you very much for that, Lara, and thanks so much for taking time to answer all those questions.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you to everyone at Resonate Scotland for having me. Hopefully in person next year. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, hopefully in person, and we can get a wee pint in person.
I'd love that.
Yeah, definitely. So up next, we've got the Deezer Masterclass, which is not to be missed on the main stage. That will be starting at 12:30, so you've got some time to go and have a wee look at the full lineup. Go and check out the expo booths, and if you're brave enough, go and check out the networking tab. I'm going to jump on the networking tab soon, so I'm hoping that somebody will be at the other end to meet me. Yeah, thank you so much, Lara, again. I'll drop your email and information in the chat box at the side so that anyone can get in touch with you. And yeah, thanks again. Cool. I'm just going to turn off my camera and mic again. Say bye. Bye.